works. That works.
Hey everyone, this is Matt with Body by Brady, and trying to get my hat straight. There you go. Get Fit Fort Mill. I'm with Dr. Corey Reiser of Functional Health Center of the Carolinas. Today we're going to be discussing something that affects a lot of people. They might not know about it. It's something I have, some other people in my family have, and just more and more talking about it. More and more people have it, or they don't know they have it, then they get their blood work done, and it turns out that they do have it.
Right.
So, what is Hashimoto's?
So Hashimoto's, well, I guess the easiest way to start is the fact that hypothyroidism in itself is one of the most severely underdiagnosed diseases in the United States. And that's because we're going off lab ranges that are from like the 1950s and 1960s. So, and with your lab work completely, you go in there and everything's pretty much in range, but you still have problems. So the lab ranges that they're looking at are fairly wide, but if you start to look at recent research with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, these lab ranges are actually pretty small. And when people go outside of them, then you start to have symptoms. So hypothyroidism in itself is basically just you're not producing enough thyroid hormone, or you're not converting your thyroid hormones very well. Now Hashimoto's, on the other hand, it's not your thyroid. So what Hashimoto's is your body is actually attacking your thyroid. It's an autoimmune disease, and your body is basically confused. And what is happening is there's certain enzymes that play a part or a role in your thyroid hormone conversion, or the proteins in your thyroid, and your immune system's actually creating antibodies, marking your thyroid and attacking and destroying it. So what will happen is you're either not going to produce T4, or you're not going to convert your T4 hormone into T3. And then that will produce all kinds of hypothyroid symptoms. It's rarely ever tested, just because they only test your TSH and T4, and if those look good, you're fine, but they never test for the antibodies. That's what you really want to look for.
Okay. So what does your thyroid do for the body?
So a lot. It's kind of one of those things people know about, but they don't know what it does. So it's a gland that sits right here. It controls respiration rate. It controls your heart rate. It converts keratin into vitamin A, so it has a lot to do with hair, skin, and nails. That's when you see people that have problems with it. Hair's falling out, outer third of the eyebrows are thinning. You have issues with skin. It controls.
One thing that happens to me, my nails will bend easily.
So there you go. Yeah, that would be a symptom where your nails aren't as strong as they should be. You're not getting that vitamin A in there. So it controls a lot of that. Heat and cold tolerance. The biggest thing is, and how people kind of stumble upon themselves finding out about thyroid issues, is the mental acuity. It starts to go. You'll have mood issues, anxiety with it, and then also metabolism. So it controls every single process in our cells as far as energy production. So people that have a problem losing weight, that is a thyroid problem or a Hashimoto's problem. Oprah Winfrey is a big one that everybody knows about. She's been with Weight Watchers for years and cannot lose weight, and that's just because she has Hashimoto's, and her thyroid is just not keeping her metabolism going. So if you're not burning anything, you're not going to lose that weight. You pack on the pounds, and that's when most people start to think, okay, I must have the thyroid issue. So if you see the kind of the herd, hyperthyroid people are very skinny, the Graves people, and then you have the people with hypo or underactive thyroid that are usually larger, but it can be in the middle. It's not a one size fits all thing.
So we kind of talked about, the nail stuff. What if someone's watching this video now and, if they're tired, they have trouble losing weight? I'm sure that could be a number of things. What are some other things that they should look out for?
Actually, because it's so long, I brought a list. See, this is how much it affects your body. So we'll actually go down the line. The first one most people will talk about is the hair thinning. You'll have, especially look out the outer third of your eyebrows. That is a big one. Once you start to see that start to thin out, and then you'll have an issue where you'll have your hands or your feet, they just are cold all the time. So there's the heat and cold tolerance regulation starting to go. Scaly skin, your skin will tend to be drier. And then I'll go into all these. It's a laundry list of stuff. So yellow bumps on your eyelids you can look out for. Chronic constipation, because the thyroid controls gut motility. So if you're not pushing the bowel movements or feces out, it'll actually be very slow. You'll be constipated. Depression and moodiness. They're linking now hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's to Alzheimer's and dementia because it's not controlling the serotonin levels as well as it should. You'll have fatigue, chronic fatigue, excessive weight gain, slow metabolism, PMS. If you have a menstrual cycle, it could be extremely painful and extremely long compared to it normally should be. Nervousness, slow heart rate, heart palpitations, muscle weakness. People tend to feel like they can't, especially if you're exercising, you're not lifting as much as you should. You'll have breathing. You can't breathe in deeply enough. So there's the respiration rate that's trying to control. Poor memory, low body temperature, excessive sleeping. So this ties into your adrenal glands, which we'll go into probably a little bit. Stress will have a big role in that. So what will happen is you'll sleep and sleep and sleep, and you feel like you've been sleeping forever, and you're just still tired when you wake up. Increased number of infections because it is an immune issue. So if you have an autoimmune issue, your immune system's on guard all the time, and then it basically underperforms. So you'll have infections a lot of the time. Dizziness, vertigo, lack of sweating when exercising. This is a big one just because it controls metabolism, energy production. So which can become a problem because if you can overheat, obviously. High cholesterol, it ties into cholesterol regulation big time. Rheumatoid arthritis, that one basically is most of the time if you have one autoimmune disease, you have several. So people that have rheumatoid will tend to also have the Hashimoto's, and they'll exhibit both. So that's, it's just looking out for the things that it controls, basically.
All right. How does Hashimoto's affect your daily life?
So there you go. Everything. If you talk to somebody that comes in my office, or even it may not be you at this time, but they'll be like, I just can't function. I sleep all day. I'm tired all day. I have no energy. My hair's falling out. I have no libido. I have brain fog. That's one of the biggest ones. I feel like I just can't think anymore. And that's one of the biggest issues is most people will go in for that, like I said earlier, and they'll get put on antidepressants or something for anxiety. And they're totally missing the point is the fact that their thyroid is the issue. But it just affects everything. You don't have energy. You can't lose weight. You become, most people will tend to go towards diabetes because they can't regulate their blood sugar properly. It controls everything. It's huge.
What kind of testing should you, is this something you can just walk into your doctor and say that you need, or are they going to question you on it if you ask for that?
If you ask for Hashimoto's, they might laugh at you. But how kind of we were exchanging emails. So Matt, he had his TSH ran, and that was it. And that's what most people will get run. So TSH is your thyroid stimulating hormone. And that comes from your pituitary gland. And it's like the gas pedal for your thyroid. So the more TSH that's floating around, the more thyroid hormone that's produced. So that's what they'll check. Now, a lot of the times it can be normal. And you can have a normal TSH, but your T4 and your T3 may not be normal. In your case, the TSH was very high. So a high TSH is indicating that your body's really trying to push your thyroid. So what they'll do next is they'll test your T4, but the biggest one that they always miss and they never test for, and because the guidelines, they say to run T3, total T3, only when you suspect an overactive thyroid situation. The problem is that you need to see T3 for both situations. When T3 is low, that's the hypothyroid. T3 is the hormone that does the majority of the work. So you have T4, T3, and TSH. That's the pretty standard that they'll run. Now, when we talked, I said we need to run T3 uptake because T3 uptake is going to show us where is the available areas for the binding, for the hormones to bind. Reverse T3, that's another molecule you want to test for to see how well the gut is getting rid of reverse T3. But the biggest one after those would be free T3 and free T4. Those are the active forms of your hormone. Those are the ones that actually get out into the cells and accomplish what the thyroid needs to accomplish. So then when you have all of those, then you can get an accurate picture of what exactly is going on. You can't make a diagnosis off of just TSH, just T4. And that's why Synthroid and levothyroxine are, I think now, maybe other than metformin, the most prescribed medication in America. Because they prescribe it right off the bat for your TSH and they prescribe it right off the bat for your T4. And what Synthroid and levothyroxine do is they give you synthetic T4, and they're hoping that then that is a kind of a cascading effect, and you produce T4, then you'll automatically produce T3, which is not the case for everybody. So that's what you need to test for. Now, if you suspect Hashimoto's, there's two things you have to test for: the antibodies, and that's what Matt was tested for and became positive on: thyroglobulin and TPO, or thyroid peroxidase. So those are two enzymes that work together with your thyroid and in your liver to convert T4 to T3. those are the enzymes that your body is actually attacking in the proteins. So when they attack and destroy those enzymes and proteins, you're not converting that T4 to T3. You're missing it. So there's abundance of T4, but there's no T3. And then that's when your TSH starts to creep up because your body's kind of saying, well, what's going on? So make sure you look at all those. So if I were to go down the list again, TSH, total T4, total T3, T3 uptake, reverse T3, free T3, free T4, and then for the Hashimoto's test, TPO antibodies and thyroglobulin antibodies.
Okay. So those come back. What is your route to helping to treat this? Do you take medication? Do you take supplementation? Do you focus on diet? Do you have to do a little bit of everything, or can diet focus just on it, or what?
It's a tough, and I'm not going to call it a disease. It's a tough syndrome because you might have to go all routes or one route. Depending on how far gone it is, you might need medication to actually, fix this problem temporarily and then go from there. But a lot of the times, if you catch it early or if you don't really have a lot of symptomology, the two biggest thing is you have to fix the immune system and not necessarily suppress it, but get it to regulate itself better so it's not attacking your thyroid, and then heal the gut. That is the biggest thing. You've got an issue somewhere in the gut where you're inflaming your immune system. So diet is really key. One thing that if you suspect you have Hashimoto's or if you know you have Hashimoto's, do not drink green tea. So green tea, for whatever reason they've seen in research, makes your immune system start to attack the thyroid more often if you already have the Hashimoto's. So that's one little tidbit. But you want to stay away from dairy products. You want to stay away from grain products because those are immune system drivers. They inflame the immune system. So those will be the two biggest things to get rid of, and sugar. Because if you can't regulate your blood sugar, then that's going to cause the thyroid in a negative feedback loop to start to be a little bit more active, and then that makes your immune system more active to attack the thyroid. So we would basically check adrenals, your GI tract. We want to see what's your liver doing because it's converting the hormone, and get a big picture and say, okay, Matt seems to have like a hormone problem, and Hashimoto's can be driven by estrogen dominance and low testosterone. So that's where we would focus. We're not even worrying about the thyroid. We're just treating your hormone imbalance, and then down the road, the thyroid, or downstream, I should say, the thyroid takes care of itself. So you got to find the underlying cause. I would never, I can't really say this, but I would never, if it were me, jump immediately on the medication train for this, because once you start to medicate the thyroid, it can easily get out of control. And if anybody's watching that's on thyroid medication, you probably already know that your doctor changes your thyroid medication all the time. I mean, you go in every 3 months and it's up, down, up, down, up, down, and that's where you run into problems.
So I think what I've experienced more is when you go to just your general practitioner, they're just trying to fix the symptoms that you're having. To where someone like you or a functional doctor or something like that is looking more for the root to the problem and fixing the issue rather than fixing the symptoms.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they're looking at it from the top down, and we would look at it from the bottom up. The thing with them is sure they'll run the Hashimoto's test if you ask them to, because it's available. It's an available test, but there's no medication out there for the immune response to the thyroid or Hashimoto's. So they can't treat it. So what they're going to do instead is treat your symptoms. And say, okay, well, if Matt feels tired and sluggish, let's just pump him more of T4 so that temporarily he feels great, and then in about a year they're going to have to keep pushing it up and up and up. And you don't want to do that because you can start to wear the thyroid gland out. People that have Hashimoto's, you are predisposed to thyroid cancer. If you start to get on these medications, you're predisposed to celiac disease, all kinds of things, because they're treating it in a totally incorrect way. You got to let the body kind of heal itself in that respect. Because if you start shoving iodine in your body and you don't need any, and you're speeding that thyroid up, guess what? The Hashimoto's is now flaring up more and more and more. So it's really a touchy subject.
Now, do all people in Hashimoto's have to follow the same diet or stuff like that?
So how I would address it, and we do this in the office for almost everybody now, is food sensitivity testing. Because if you have an allergy to a food, that's going to drive your immune system. So I would definitely recommend everybody follow the no dairy, no grains policy for sure. And then from there, you got to figure out what your body is sensitive to.
Yeah.
If you have Hashimoto's, you better believe that you have food sensitivities. We had one woman come in last week. We actually got her test results back. I mean, it was literally, she can't really eat anything. I mean, she's down to like 5 vegetables, 2 different types of meats, and she's struggling with it because it's that condensed, but she's also feeling so much better. Now you can start to reintroduce these foods back in too as you're away from them for a while. So I mean, so long answer, everybody has to be on a different diet for sure.
So how do you do the food sensitive people want to know? Is it like when you were kids and they do an allergy thing down the back?
Not on the back.
Or is it you do blood work, or how do you figure out?
Yep, blood work, and they'll look for IgG, IgA, antibodies. You'll just go to a lab. We have a kit. You'll just walk into a LabCorp or a Quest. They'll just draw it and they send it out and then just analyze it. They'll do
and how
analysis.
How fast do those results usually?
Usually about 2 to 3 weeks. It'll come back because they're testing for about 90 different food items. So it's pretty extensive. But generally in our program, during that time, we've already started working on the immune system and cleansing the body and doing metabolic clearing. So by the time it comes back, we're already well into the process.
So people probably see some weight loss with you right off the bat.
Right off the bat. And it's amazing because they're like, okay, you finally treat the issue that's causing them not to lose weight, and it's like, it'll melt off. I mean, it's crazy. Some people, like the first week, 2 weeks, you're losing like 5, 10 pounds just because that metabolism is finally speeding back up. I mean, it's finally going. And they feel so much better. The brain. I had one woman come in today about an hour ago. The brain fog. I mean, she's like, I've gotten more work done in the last 2 weeks than I have had to try to do in the last 6 months. Just because we finally are addressing her underlying cause and not just sitting there throwing levothyroxine, down her. So, I mean, there's little tidbits here and there, like bromine is one thing that you would want to watch out for. That's in a lot of pesticides, so that's why we always really push organic food products, because bromine will start to exacerbate Hashimoto's. It's in pesticides. It's in a lot of if you go to like Publix or Harris Teeter, their baked goods, they put that in there. I don't know if it's like a preservative or what it is, but it's in a lot of weird things. So fire retardants and that kind of stuff, you can work around that. Fluoride as well. So fluoride, they found that 0.3 milligrams per liter is enough to exacerbate Hashimoto's. In the United States, we test, and if your water is under 0.7, it's considered safe for fluoride. So as a United States citizen, we are already predisposed to getting Hashimoto's more than anybody else in the world, just because we have, I guess, lower standard of watching out what's in our water. So get your water tested. You can kind of see where you're at if you're over that 3 threshold. So just little things here and there you can check out for.
So how does it work if you have a food allergy and stuff like that, and you said you can introduce food down the line, why are you able to have it down the line? Or is it still sporadic down the line, but you can at least have it then? Or is it, how does that work?
So it depends on your immune response, and they'll test for those. So you can have an acute immune response to food and a delayed immune response. The delayed is one where you've been eating that food for so long that your body's just waiting for you to ingest it again. So what will happen is we'll test these foods, and you can have an equivocal reaction or a full-blown allergy. The equivocals is where you kind of produce antibodies and your immune system kind of flares up when you eat it. You can take those out of your diet for about 3 months, and your body basically says, oh, I guess we're not eating that anymore, or I don't see that in my bloodstream anymore. I don't have to worry about it. So you'll stop producing the immune response, reintroduce the food, the body doesn't know anything different. All the while, though, we're trying to heal up the gut because it comes from leaky gut. That's what happens. You have these gap junctions inside the intestine. They split open, food particles get in, your body says, what is that? And it starts to attack it. So if you start to get the inflammation down and allow your intestinal lining to basically heal itself back up, you won't have that food leaking into the gut. Now, the ones you have a full-blown allergy, about 6 months it'll take, give or take, to really keep it out of your diet and then reintroduce it so you're not having that immune response. And then, you can, I mean, a lot of these people, that's why some people will say, your immune system or your allergies change every 7 years. It's not really the case. You just aren't eating the food, and now you don't have an allergy to it. You don't have an immune response to it. So some people, well, I used to be allergic to strawberries when I was a kid, but as an adult, I ate one the other day and I'm totally fine. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's, you got to
Crazy
really
how
watch
the body can change and do stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if people want to, reach out to you, this, struck a chord with them or someone they know, how are some ways they can get in contact with you?
So obviously social media, what we're on right now. So facebook.com/FHC Carolinas. Our website is FHCCarolinas.com. Instagram is FHC Carolinas. Or you can actually just call the office, 704-625-2994. All of our initial interactions, our initial consultations are complimentary.
Okay.
And that's the thing that I try to harp on as far as being in the medical community is I'm not going to go in there and just charge you something just to sit down with you. And I think that's where we kind of get lost in the medical side of things with chronic diseases is you're there for your 8-minute appointment regardless. I want to know everything about you because I don't know if I can help you just yet.
Yeah.
We got to get a baseline. We got to figure out your health history. We got to get a good idea of are you in the right place?
Yeah.
And then from there, then we kind of formulate a plan. And then, I mean, obviously I'll give some advice in the first visit, complimentary, but we just got to figure out where have you come from? Why are you exhibiting the symptoms? Because everybody's going to exhibit them differently, and we just got to piece together the puzzle.
Now, does insurance cover some of your stuff? Or?
It's hard to say. What we do is we do a system where you yourself can submit to your insurance after the fact. Some people have great insurance that covers nutritional therapy and it'll cover it, or it'll cover some of it and it'll cover the lab work, but some people it won't even touch because they consider this preventative, and it's ridiculous.
It's going to end up being cheaper on their insurance if you fix them before.
And I mean, that just goes, we could go into another hour talk about the healthcare and insurance situation. So we're not spending all of our budget on healthcare by the end of 2040, but it just depends on everybody's insurance. But what I always tell people too is if you really want to get fixed and your health is your number one priority, then it shouldn't matter. It's going to save you money in the long run. You're not going to be paying all your copays and your premiums and all your medications every single month and wondering why you're still sick. So it just depends. I couldn't even price you right now, anybody, because everybody's different. Everybody's going to be different. So.
Well, thanks for Dr. Reiser for stopping by. We'll have him on again probably in July sometime. So, comment below or send us a message with some other information you think would be, good for you guys to hear from, and we'll be glad to go over that with our next time. We'll see everyone later. Thanks for checking in. If you missed this, we will be uploading the replay, so you'll be able to watch this in review later on too. We'll be posting that. So appreciate everyone jumping on, and we'll see everyone soon.